Tonight, we are unveiling a brand new segment called Rush Hour on the Hill. Every day, we will take you behind the biggest headlines in D.C., bringing you the insider information from the most influential newsmakers and journalists on the Hill. So let's take our coverage to Capitol Hill. NewsNation Washington, D.C. Bureau Chief Mike Viqueira is joining me live. Mike, so great to have you here with us. You are joined today by Bob Cusack, managing editor of The Hill. That is, of course, our partners there in D.C. All right, Vic. Take it away.
Okay, Nichole, it's great to be here on Rush Hour. I look forward to many happy returns. Yeah, $5.8 trillion to be exact, Nichole. And when does $5.8 trillion not amount to a hill of beans? When it's in a presidential budget, not just President Biden's budget, but presidential budgets in general. You know, for years, when the president sent his budget up here, there was a whole ritual around it. When it arrived at the government printing office, when it arrived on Capitol Hill. Now, nothing but crickets. They used to call it dead on arrival, but there's one thing about this president's budget today that has some things in it that would revive Democrats' flagging hopes, their failing hopes of retaining control of both the House and the Senate as we approach the November elections. Joining me now is Bob Cusack, editor-in-chief of The Hill. Great to have you here on our inaugural run here.
Thanks for having me on.
Check it out. The president wants to tax billionaires, the so-called billionaires tax. That was the first thing they touted when they revealed this budget plan just yesterday. I believe it's anyone making over $100 million has to pay at least 20% taxes, right? There's climate change money. There are billions for climate change, things that he was unable to get through in the Build Back Better Act. He's still pushing these through. What are the chances that any of this becomes reality at this point?
Oh, slim to none, Mike. I mean, they could have passed whatever they wanted to, tax-wise or climate change, if they were united. Now, the House passed the Build Back Better bill, but as we know, the Senate derailed it, and that was partly because of Joe Manchin, but also because of Senator Sinema. Manchin's okay with increasing taxes on the wealthy, but Sinema is not. So this proposal, which gets a lot of attention, really what it comes down to is what is Congress going to do? And it's, in all likelihood, it's nothing, and this is a campaign document because Democrats have to run on something. They're going to run on this billionaire tax.
Yeah, run on something. You know, there's something they call the enthusiasm gap, right? Midterm elections. There's no president. There's no Donald Trump. There's no Joe Biden. There's no Kamala Harris. There's no presidential race. This is a race for every seat in the House of Representatives come November and a third of the Senate. But the polling indicates that all of the momentum, all of the enthusiasm is on the part of the Republicans. So the president has to pump up his Democratic base with items like the ones that we just described here. The money for taxing the wealthy, the things that he failed to do in the Build Back Better Act because of the slim margins that they had. So will this work to try to stimulate the base? Is this what he's after here?
He certainly has to stimulate the base because the base is the one that shows up on both sides, on the Republican and Democratic side. And as you mentioned, Republicans are hungry. Why? Because they're out of power. They don't have the House, they don't have the Senate, they don't have the White House. So now they've got a very good shot to win the House and a decent shot to win the Senate because the map is a little friendlier to Democrats. But overall, the political wins are at the Republicans' backs and in the Democrats' face.
Yeah, you know, you and I have been doing this a long time. Maybe I've been doing this
I've been doing it a while.
A little bit longer than you have. The system is broken down, the legislative system. Every year, we go through this ritual. The budget process doesn't work. They don't want to take tough votes on the floor of the Senate. They don't want to take tough votes on appropriation spending bills on the floor of the House. At the end of the year, top Republicans, top Democrats get behind closed doors and decide how trillions and trillions of dollars is going to be spent. What is the hope? What is the detriment? How does it not serve the public, the system that we have, the gridlock in Congress?
Well, you just mentioned the lack of transparency. We don't know until the very end when it's up against Christmas or some type of deadline, August recess, whatever the deadline is. And then they go behind closed doors and then they say, okay, we're going to vote on this. Does anyone have time to read it? No. I mean, as far as making laws, and Republicans and Democrats have done it both ways, why would you make a law that you can't read before voting on it? It doesn't make any sense, but that's the system we have.
Right. Well, maybe the good old days quite aren't what as we remember them, but it was more transparent. It was probably more responsive to the average voter. One other thing, on the other side of the sort of leftist, or the things that appeal to the president's base on the left, $3.2 billion, the president of the State of the Union famously said, I don't want to defund the police, I want to fund the police. $3.2 billion to hire state and local cops around the country, a $30 billion boost in the defense budget. So he's also trying to play the moderate side of the Democratic Party, you know, that suffered so greatly by their own account in the midterms, in the elections, the presidential election in 2020.
Yeah, he is trying to take on the left to some degree. The defense spending helped a little bit, certainly by the war in Ukraine. So he has some political cover. But certainly on other issues, he's, I think, moving away from the left. Defund the police, not a very good slogan. Jim Clyburn, who used to lead the Congressional Black Caucus, has said that was one of the worst slogans ever. So Democrats need to move away from that. And reform the police, that's a good slogan. Defund the police, not so great.
Got a challenge, got a breakthrough. There's a war going on. Inflation is really high. I mean, historically high right now.
Right.
It threatens to bring down GDP. There's talk of a recession now. What does the president, what are the odds that the president can turn this around? You know, one of the cliches in Washington is, 8 months is an eternity in politics. As we count down to the election, 7 months an eternity, 6 months an eternity in policy. But what could happen now to reverse the Democrats' fortune between now and Election Day?
I think they're going to get a little boost with Judge Jackson getting on the high court.
Right.
But that's not going to give him huge numbers. Biden was able to get the bipartisan transportation bill passed, didn't see a big bump. I think they've got to get another win, some slimmed down version on health care, prescription drug prices. But time is running out. And I've talked to a lot of Democrats who are very nervous that Joe Biden is not going to turn this around, and this is going to be a bloodbath. Come November.
It looks pretty ominous for Democrats come November, no question. So, Nichole, $5.8 trillion, a political document in the president's budget, an effort to try to turn around those political fortunes as we head towards November.
Well,
Nichole?
absolutely. You know, and Vic, I have a question for Bob as well. You know, he spoke about courting moderates on both sides there. Again, we also talked about needing to stimulate his base. But again, you know, proposing bumps in police and military funding, is it possible that that will backfire for him, possibly on both sides of the aisle?
Certainly, yeah, it could backfire as far as, you know, the left not being happy with some of these proposals. But at the same time, I think Democrats are banking. They're going to try to portray Republicans as being for billionaires and not for any tax increases. And that's going to be their game plan. But honestly, they had a big, bold agenda. As they said, Chuck Schumer constantly said, big and bold, big and bold. Well, the biggest and boldest bill they haven't been able to pass and Build Back Better. And really, the talks are nowhere right now as far as when they're going to revive it.
Yeah, and Nichole, if I could add, you know, what's at stake here? Control of the House and the Senate. President Biden's last 2 years where he can't get anything through Congress, that's what's at stake in these midterms in November.
That's right. And remember, if the Senate flips and there's a Supreme Court opening right after Mitch McConnell becomes majority leader, there'll be no vote on that. He'll say wait for the next election. So that's a big deal.
We will see what happens. Bob Cusick, thank you so much for that. All right, Vic, you always have your ear to the ground there in Washington. What do we need to keep our eye on for tomorrow?
Okay, let's talk about Vic's picks. This week in the House, I think it's actually going to be Wednesday, Nichole, the House of Representatives set to vote federal legalization of marijuana. 37 states now, it's medical marijuana is legal. 18 recreational recreational use of marijuana is legal. But the problem is that if you live in those states and you happen to frequent those establishments, you know that you have to pay cash if you go to a dispensary. That's because federal regulations that regulate the banking industry, you can't use your credit card. That could change after Wednesday in the House and then later in the Senate in the coming months. Another thing, America competes with China. Big bill on the floor of the Senate tomorrow, Bob.
Yep.
Yeah, this would $250 billion. It's likely to pass to give American industry, mainly the semiconductor industry, the money it needs that it feels to compete with China. And finally, the president tomorrow, a big ceremony at the White House. He signs an anti-lynching bill. This is years in the making. It's named after Emmett Till, killed by a white mob in 1955, a 14-year-old boy in Mississippi. The president will sign that bill tomorrow at the White House. He'll have a speaking role, of course, as will Vice President Kamala Harris. Nichole.
Yeah, that has a long time coming, certainly. All right, Vic, thank you for that. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.